Things I want to point out about Asterisk is it does come with a lot of sound prompts. These were done by professional voice talent out of Canada, a gal by the name of Allison Smith. And she's done over 1,000 different words and phrases, and some of them are hilarious. I mean, you've probably heard of them. Weasels have eaten our phone system, and nobody's here to take your call. They're off gambling and getting drunk. Great sound prompts out there. Things like, will you marry me? Press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. And you get to choose which sound packages you want to install. So when you go through the setup process of Asterisk, it's going to ask you, well, do you want the core sounds or the extra sounds? Do you want them in English or Spanish or French? I think somebody added UK or Australian English sometime just recently. And then you get to choose, well, what codecs do you want those in? Do you want those in WAV files? Do you want those in ULAW files? Do you want those in ALAW files? Do you want those in G729, G722, signed linear, all the different file formats as well. So lots of different choice there on sound packages. The next thing I want to talk about is what are you going to need on your system if you were going to compile Asterisk from source code. I would say probably 60%, 65% of the people using Asterisk do actually compile it from the source code. And so if you're going to compile it from the source code, you need a C compiler, like the free GCC compiler that comes with Linux. There's some system libraries that you're going to need, things like the OpenSSL libraries for encryption and strong authentication, the zlib library for compression, the Newt and NewtDevel libraries for the Dotty tools, the curses libraries for the Asterisk command line interface. But you also need to take a step back and say, what is it that I'm trying to get my PBX to do? If it's a case of you want your PBX to be able to go check the stock market or check things on the internet, those sorts of things, then you probably want the curl libraries on your system so it can go out, so that Asterisk can go out and interact with things on the internet. If you want your Asterisk system to send you an email notification when someone leaves you a voicemail, then you probably want some sort of mail transport agent installed on your machine. SendMail or Postfix or Exum or Qmail, take your pick, so that the system can send mail out to other mail servers. So be thinking about what are the sorts of things I want my system to do. Make sure you have those libraries. If you want Asterisk to talk to a database, make sure you have your database development libraries on the system. Okay? And that kind of leads us to, well, what are the different ways that I can install Asterisk? Obviously, some operating systems, Fedora, for example, just shameless plug here, already have Asterisk packaged up and in part of the, as part of the operating system. So you can just say, hey, I want to install Asterisk, and it downloads and it runs. So that's an easy way. Sometimes, though, Linux distributions aren't always the best at keeping those packages up to date. Fedora is really good because I keep jabbing people and make sure that happens. But other Linux distributions don't always keep up on that. Obviously, if you do it from source, you have control over exactly what version you're installing, exactly how you're building it, what options are compiled in, what options aren't. You have a little more control that way. Slightly more complicated, but you have full control there. The last way you can install it is as part of a larger Asterisk-based Linux distribution. So there are things out there like PBX in a Flash, or Trixbox, or Elastix, or Ast Linux. These are Linux distributions that are specifically built around Asterisk and Asterisk tools, so that you can just install Linux and Asterisk and some third-party tools all at the same time, and not have to worry about, oh, I've got to install an operating system, I've got to install Asterisk, then I've got to install these other tools. Okay. Again, use which you're most comfortable with. If you're fine doing it from source, do it from source. You've got the ultimate control. If you want a little bit more consistency across a large number of systems, you may want to look more at doing it from packages or doing it from a custom distribution. Flexibility is key here. So. All right, let's talk just a minute about, say, I've got Asterisk up and running. Now how do I interact with it? The primary way that you interact with an Asterisk system as an administrator is through the command line interface. And I know there's people out there who say, can't I just have a drag and drop click and thing to do? There are third-party GUIs out there for Asterisk. There's plenty of them out there. I'm sorry, I'm a command line guy, so I'm going to teach you the command line because this gives you the ultimate flexibility. I promise if you learn how to use the CLI, it'll really come in handy. One of the things you have to understand about Asterisk is when you start it up, it runs in the background. It runs as what we call a daemon. And so if you were to just type Asterisk and hit enter at the Linux command line, it would start Asterisk up in the background and then just give you another Linux prompt, and you say, well, did it do anything? Yeah, Asterisk is running in the background. When you want to connect to an already running Asterisk instance and get to the command line interface, you're going to type Asterisk minus R, and that lowercase r means reconnect. Reconnect to the running Asterisk instance. Now, in this example up here, I've got the letter V in there a few times as well. That turns up the verbosity level. That means Asterisk is going to give me a little more detail on what's going on the system. It's saying if their verbosity level wasn't already 3 or higher, it's going to set that verbosity level to 3. Okay? And that just gives you more information on the command line interface. On the Asterisk command line interface, the verbosity level of 3 is kind of the magic number there. If you have your verbosity at 3, it's going to tell you every step in every call as it happens on the system, so you can trace through the calls and see what's going on the system. Now, when you're doing development, that's a very, very useful thing. You say, oh, it got to this point in the dial plan and then something happened. Oh, I must have a typo there. Okay? If you've got a production system that's got, let's say 1,000 concurrent calls, they're just going to be scrolling past on the screen so fast that you're not going to have a chance to see what's going on, and you probably want to turn your verbosity down a little bit. Does that make sense? All right. Now, there's some other options that we can use when we connect to Asterisk or start up Asterisk. We talked about the R option for reconnecting to Asterisk running in the background. If instead of starting Asterisk up in the background, we wanted to start it up in the foreground, we wanted to start it up on the console, you could do Asterisk minus C. Now, this is really only used when you're having trouble getting Asterisk to start up, and you want to make sure that what's happening as it's starting up that's keeping it from starting. And again, you could do like Asterisk minus VVC to turn up the verbosity and start it up on the console so that you can see exactly what's happening. Okay. Again, the minus V is going to be set the verbosity level. If you put 5 V's in there, it's going to turn the verbosity level up to 5 if it's not already 5 or higher. In addition to the verbosity messages, there's also some messages that you can turn on that are more debug level messages. And the difference being the messages that come out of the verbosity setting are things that you as an Asterisk administrator are going to care about. Typically, the messages that come out of debug messages are messages that the coders are going to worry about, the people programming Asterisk, that they're going to need to see if you're encountering some strange error or you're trying to do some advanced troubleshooting. So typically, you don't need the debug level set very high, but it's useful to have the verbosity level set at 3 or higher. Okay. One other trick that I like to use on the Asterisk command line interface is the X option. And if you can combine that with the R, you're saying, hey, go run this command, log into the command line interface, run this command, and then log back out. So if I did Asterisk minus RX, restart now, what would that do? Log into Asterisk, say, hey, Asterisk, restart yourself right now, log back out. So if you wanted to script a reboot every night at midnight, that sort of thing, you could do that sort of thing. Okay?
How is that different from AM Portal restart?
AM Portal is something that comes as part of free PBX, which used to be called AMP. And AM Portal actually restarts Asterisk and a bunch of other services that free PBX uses. I can't remember if it restarts the database or not, but it closes the connections to the database, it closes down several other things, restarts Asterisk, and then comes back up. So if you are using free PBX, then you probably want to use AM Portal instead of just doing it this way. Does that make sense? No problem. A few other things I want to point out about the Asterisk command line interface. Don't be afraid to type help at the CLI. There really is built-in help, and it actually is rather helpful. So don't be afraid to type help. If you want to exit out, you can obviously type quit. What if you wanted to stop the system? Cancel all the calls that are in progress and just bring the system down. Type core stop now. Okay. What if you wanted to say, I don't want to do it now, but I want to wait until all the calls are done on the system. I want to make sure there's no calls in the system and then bring it down. You could say core stop when convenient. That's just saying, hey, wait till there's no calls on the system and then stop it. What if we wanted to say, I don't want any new calls to start up, but I just want to wait for the existing calls to finish? You could say core stop gracefully. And gracefully means don't let any new calls start up, but let the existing calls continue on until they're all done. Kind of wean users off the system and then stop it. You can do the same thing. You do core restart if you want to restart it at that time rather than just stopping it. If you want to adjust your verbosity levels, you can say core set verbose 5 or core set debug 3 to change your verbosity and debug levels. If you want to get to a Unix shell or a Linux shell very quickly, you can type in exclamation mark and hit enter, and it'll take you to the Linux shell. You exit out of the Linux shell, you return back to the CLI. Or you can type an exclamation mark and a Unix command, and it would go run that command and then return you back to the CLI. So it's an easy way to hop back and forth between the Linux shell and the Asterisk command line interface. Okay, so here's just a set of commands you may try from the CLI when you either log into a system during the break, or when you get back to your hotel room tonight and you're playing around with Asterisk. Try some of these commands. Don't be afraid to use the core show applications command there. That's going to list all the different dial plan applications that you can use within your dial plan. And you can say like core show application dial and find out more information about that dial application. What are the parameters it takes? What are the different options I can use in that application? That makes sense? All right. So to kind of recap Module 3 here before we go on break, we've talked about Asterisk version numbers and releases. We talked about kind of the requirements for installing on a system. We talked about getting libpri and Dotty and Asterisk up and running, starting Asterisk, connecting to the CLI, and then getting around on the CLI.
Do you publish a release note where you show the current or existing bugs?
All of the existing bugs are on. If you go to issues.asterisk.org, they're all publicly available. We don't believe in security through obscurity. Anything that's been reported to us as a bug is out there and available. The only ones that are hidden is if they're a security issue. We tried to put the patch out there and the release out there and update that as quickly as possible before we make the exploit public. But usually that's a matter of a couple of days before that happens. We're very conscious that way of doing, being responsible there. But everything else, every reported flaw, every reported bug is out there and publicly available. All right, any other questions before we go to break? Question right here. FreePBX is just an independent group of developers that is working to build a GUI, web-based GUI around Asterisk. They're not hired by Digium. They're not employed by Digium. Several of them are employed by other businesses in the voice over IP space, service providers and those sorts of things. But it really is kind of an independent project on top of Asterisk, which is healthy in an open source environment. We at Digium could obviously come along and write a GUI, and we have tried to do that. We're not experts at writing GUIs, and it's nice that there are lots of different GUIs out there and available. FreePBX happens to be probably the most popular one out there right now, but it's a very healthy thing that it's not just locked down to one particular company or one particular organization. Is there another question on the back row? Camera phones, you gotta love them. All right, we'll go ahead and break here.